All right, let's get it started here with Greg. Because Lee and John, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of Padre pitchers?
Oh, my good. I would say probably in the early days, Randy Jones, because of who he was. Secondly, I would have to say Trevor Hoffman. Last time I checked, they sent his mail to Cooperstown Hall of Fame. So those would be the first two right out of the gate.
Yeah, and you have to have Jake Peavy, I think, would be on that list. And then, in the recent era, you could talk about Darvish and Snell.
Yeah, but they're not real Padres. They were rental players.
But they got us, they're part of the team now. But, Randy Jones, won a Cy Young and almost won a second. I mean, so that guy is legit. He deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore. But I'm going back. I remember it was that guy that Mark Davis won the Cy Young as a reliever. And they had Bruce Hurst for a while, although I think him more as a Red Sox. Who else?
I was thinking long-lasting Padres, guys that really had identity here. I mean, Trevor Hoffman and Randy Jones probably are 1 and 1A.
Yeah, well, who else pitched for that would maybe be Hall of Fame level? There was Gaylord Perry, but he played for every team.
He was a rental.
He was a rental. Well, came up from the minors. Andy Bennis was something. Jake Peavy definitely should be on that list. And there's a lot of hope, I think, for more future prospects. But it's fun to talk baseball in the offseason, isn't it?
Oh, Hot Stove League is always lit as far as I'm concerned. All right, Greg, thank you for joining us. Go ahead, next question.
Okay, next question. We'll go here to Callan. He says, afternoon, gents. Lee, I'd love to hear about what a typical day would be for you on game day for the broadcast, whether it was the Chargers, the Seahawks, or USC.
Good question, because I was doing a 4-hour sports talk show. I was booking all the guests on my 4-hour talk show. I was a solo host on my talk show. So that was my Monday through Friday. And in the evenings, I would do game prep. I look back now, I say, how the hell did I do all that? Because I was raising kids at the same time.
Yeah.
So I would look at video normally on Tuesday night of the Chargers' next opponent or the Seahawks' next opponent. Wednesday, I would start working on charts because you have these big flipboards you use with the players and their statistics, et cetera. It's always right there in front of you when you do the play-by-play. And usually on Thursdays, I would do notes. I'd have a legal pad with notes split of Chargers, Denver Broncos, things that I thought were fascinating to talk about. And then I do also spend the same time when I was doing USC and San Diego State. I'd spend part of a night doing boards for the Aztec game or the USC Trojans game and do research about, I read press releases and stuff. So, and now go do the game on Saturday and go do the game on Sunday. And towards the end, I was meeting myself coming and going in the airport. I don't know how the hell I did what I did. The most fascinating story, the last year that I did all of it, I did the 4-hour talk show, and I did the Seahawks, and I did USC. And we had a bye week going into Thursday, Thanksgiving. I came home on Wednesday, and I was wiped out. I went to bed Wednesday. I did not get up till 1:30 on Thursday and had Thanksgiving dinner with my family and kids. And I went back to bed at 3:30. And I slept till Friday. My wife was so upset at me.
Oh, bet.
I mean, I was on a treadmill. I love the regimentation. I love the preparation. I love game day. It was always an adrenaline rush for me. But man, I look back and say, how the hell did I do all that? And I did it for 17 years of the Chargers, Seahawks, Chargers, Aztecs, or Seahawks, USC. And I was coming and going in the airport.
You were Monday through Friday on the radio, and then you have
4 hours a day.
4 hours a day, and then you're doing college ball on Saturday and the NFL on Sunday. That's unbelievable. I mean, so now a question I have for you is, like, during the week, did any of the teams give you maybe special access to the coach or to the players for interviews?
Oh, yeah. I'd go down when the locker room was open. I'd go do it in the early afternoon as part of my talk show, but also to do pregame packaging. I also packaged the whole pregame show myself. We had a 9-hour game day on the Chargers.
I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot of work, a lot of interviews, and I went and did a lot of that stuff. And then we had other people voice some things that I'd write for them. So I was doing stuff for NFL Films. They'd call me and say, we want this, this, and this from last Sunday's broadcast. And I'd have to go chase it and feed it to them. So you're right. I was bleeping brilliant. I mean, it was hard.
You're the James Brown of sports journalists. Hardest working man. Now, did the teams ever kind of give you information, say, hey, say this, say that?
No. Well, one time we had an incident on a Charger flight where a player got arrested as he was boarding the flight, and they didn't want us to talk about it. I said, we got to talk about it. It happened. It's newsworthy. I just happened to be there and I saw it. So we're going to talk about it. And it was one of the Charger linebackers got arrested on traffic violation. We were in Miami, and one of the Charger linebackers got arrested on possession of cocaine in Miami. Chip Banks, former USC star. And I went to the general manager because I did a pregame segment with the general manager at the time, Steve Ortmeyer. I said, I'm going to have to ask you about this because I have my job to do. I'm going to ask you. You say whatever you want, but I'm going to ask you about Chip Banks got arrested Friday night. What's the status? What are you doing with him? And Steve understood what I had to do. And then he answered the questions. So, we were never told, don't say this. I'm not going to cede to that. I'm going to do my job.
Good for you. Yeah, you have you have the integrity of the finest man in sports broadcast journalism.
That's a great question. That's how we got to where I am. Please explain to me how the hell I executed all that, because now I look back and say, I can't believe I did all that. But I did it because I loved it.
Well, and I was listening to you 7 days a week. I mean, it was unbelievable. Okay, let's keep going. We'll go to Chris. Saw huge news across my high-speed sports wire. Since USC has been placed on probation, the university can now fire Lincoln Riley and not owe him a penny as far as the buyout goes. Personally, I think he deserves more time to fix this thing, but this is a bleeping game changer. A penny for your thoughts.
He is not going to be fired. He didn't violate anything. The NCAA did not sanction him. The rules had changed as it relates to assistant coaches and volunteer coaches not being allowed to be on the field with players during spring ball or practice. The rules then changed, and Riley there were 11 violations over a 2-year span. He was not paying attention. They said, it's your program. He admitted it was his program. He needed to do a better job, but they cooperated fully. They sanctioned the football program already. USC did in-house. What was different about USC in this leadership is when the NCAA came to them and said, we've uncovered this, USC said, we'll take action, and they did. That's different than the Mike Garrett era and the whole Pete Carroll, Reggie Bush thing, where Mike Garrett's response is, yeah, everybody wishes they could be like us at USC. And the arrogance with Mike Garrett was unbelievable. And that's what got him in all kinds of trouble because they were non-cooperative with the NCAA. So he's not going to get suspended. He's not going to get fired. Granted, it's been a crummy season at 5-5, but he just got a commitment from one of the top high school recruits on the West Coast at quarterback at a Centennial. And everybody in the world wanted this kid, and he's going to stay home and go to USC. On top of the fact they still got Mayava, who's got 2 or 3 more years there. He's the transfer from Vegas. So he's got to fix it. We'll see if he does.
Wow. Well, what's the USC's record this year?
It's now 5-5.
5-5. Man, that's not Trojan-like.
No, not ever.
Not ever.
Welcome to the Big Ten.
Yeah, exactly.
Next question.
All right, let's go here to John. He goes, hey, Saw, back from my stay in SoCal. Can you believe Alex Ochevskin, hat trick last night, 39 years old, tied for the NHL lead in goals for the season. He's gone from the quote, will he pass Gretzky this season to will he pass Gretzky before the trade deadline?
Well, he's had a real bounce back start. I don't know whether he can continue it for 80 games of an NHL schedule, but got a lot of miles on that body. But he's that's a Hall of Fame player. I mean, he's 39, looks like he's 59. I mean, he's really aged, but he's still got fire and still wants to play well. And it's a long NHL season. He's a great, great individual talent.
This is like a glory time for, older dudes in sports. I'm thinking of Mike Tyson as well.
Don't confuse Mike Tyson with Alexander Ovechkin. Don't confuse Mike Tyson with Hacksaw. Come on.
What Ovechkin, now, where is he from? Is he from Russia?
Yes.
Okay. So, and when did he come to America?
He's been in the league a long time.
A really long time, because I know his name. I've seen it around all the time.
I want to say he's 18, 19-year veteran maybe now.
Wow. Okay.
Great talent. Unbelievable talent. And for the most part has stayed free of injuries. Because, I mean, when you go at the pace he goes, there's collisions and all that stuff. And he's not had any catastrophic injuries, which is pretty impressive. I mean, when you're playing at 38, 39, 40, with the exception of Gordie Howe, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because Gordie played till he's 50.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, John.
Okay, let's keep moving. This is from the O Canada Network. This is T. Will. He goes, hey, non-CFL football talk. Here we go.
Oh, I feel so bad for the O Canada Network. Winnipeg got blown out of the Canadian Football League Grey Cup yesterday. Got beat by the Toronto Argonauts. And I felt really bad. Zach Collaros is a really fine CFL quarterback. He's a kid, not a kid anymore, from the University of Cincinnati. He threw for over 4,000 yards, but he got hurt in the game. He got a bad cut on his throwing hand, and they had to stitch it up. And he came back and played with a glove, but his accuracy went away, threw 4 interceptions in the game. And I was shocked that the Argonauts won the game because the Argonauts lost their star quarterback, Chad Kelly, in the semifinals of the playoffs with a dislocated ankle. And they went with a street free agent backup guy who's hardly played at all. Yeah, I think his name's Nate Arbuckle. So the Argonauts, of all people, to win, and I felt bad for the Blue Bombers. And the Blue Bombers have been in the Grey Cup, 3-4 years in a row, and have come home without the trophy. That's tough. Collaros had a hell of a season in Winnipeg.
I watched part of the game, and I just am still fascinated by the rule differences with the NFL and seeing like 3 receivers like in motion going forward just as the ball was snapped. It's just crazy to see that.
Yeah, that and 3 downs and the 110-yard field and the wider field. It takes a unique quarterback to be able to play in the Canadian Football League. Not everybody can do it. It's very different. Funny story. I was a young kid growing up on Long Island, and this goes back it had to be in the 1960s. The first CFL game I saw was on ABC TV. Maybe Wide World of Sports televised the Grey Cup. And I think it was the Hamilton Ticats, and I don't know who the other one might have been, Winnipeg. And the game was stopped because of fog.
Interesting.
And they had a quarterback, I think he's legendary Hall of Famer, Russ Jackson. And he rolled right to throw, and he threw it into a fog bank, and nobody could see where the play was, whether the ball was caught, whether the ball was intercepted, whether it fell incomplete. And then here comes the side judge running up the sidelines, comes out of the cloud, and he says, incomplete. And that's the first CFL game I saw. I think it was Russ Jackson versus Joe Zuger, who was another star quarterback. Might have been with the Hamilton Ticats. So that was my first taste of the Canadian Football League. Different game. You have to appreciate the taste. It's so different, but it's cool. And I talk to agents. I say, you know what? You represent this kid quarterback. He's not going to make it in the NFL. Send him to Canada because you can make a nice living. You can become a hero up there and do really, really well. The Winnipeg Blue Bomber quarterback, Zach Collaros, is a prime example. He's gone up there and he's a star. He's making the most you can make. Now, granted, it's not what you make in the NFL, but you know, I can live nicely on $400,000. Maybe you can't, but I mean, that's a prime example. Zach Collaros should be the poster boy for American quarterbacks who are just going to be rotation guys. What was the quarterback from the University of San Diego? Josh Johnson.
Yeah.
He's been with 1,000 teams in the NFL. He's been with 14 different teams as a backup and taxi squad and keeps getting cut and all. He should have gone to Canada. He might have done very well. Some guys go up there and flourish. Doug Flutie went up there, was spectacular. Obviously, Warren Moon, that's where he laid the groundwork for his Hall of Fame career when he came back to the NFL. Now, some guys go up there. Achilles Smith, San Diego kid, went to Oregon. Mm-hmm. He went up there and failed. It's a very different game for you to be able to play up there, but it's a fascinating game. It's really different. And their season's over by Thanksgiving because of snow and cold.
Remember, Achilles Smith also failed with the Bengals.
He was a high draft pick.
Yeah, he was. And but I just love you just reaching into the hopper and pulling out these old names from the CFL. You are like a database of information. But you know, the fog thing, I remember it was an NFL game.
Eagles. Eagles, Randall Cunningham, maybe?
Yes. It was like that. I was thinking,
or was it Donovan McNabb? It was one of them.
Eagles Bears is what I have it in my
fog
head.
Game.
And it was crazy because it was on TV and no one could see anything. And the announcers couldn't see anything.
I never did I did a high school game in Ohio in the fog. I had no clue at all. I'm sitting in this tiny little press box. I was doing high school football. It was my first radio job. And they ran a sweep. Far right. Option sweep into the fog base. I had no idea where the ball was, what happened on the play. All I could hear was fans cheering it.
So did you just say, I have no idea what's going on?
I said, he's in the fog bank. I don't know yet until they bring the ball back. Say, he must have gained 11 yards on that far right sweep. It's funny. The more you do this, the more places you've been in, the weirder places you've gotten yourself into.
Yeah, well, let's keep on moving.
Canada, thank you for the call.
All right, let's go here to Running Man and talk about Sean Lewis. He says, agree totally, Lee. Should be a fee, especially all the investment into these players, and they just leave. How can the fans be loyal to a team if they just jump when they want to?
Well, I think it's a concrete statement that he made. That's the best press conference I've been to with him since his first press conference, and I like him, and he's really intelligent. But I'm tired of coach speak, and I'm tired of participation trophies, and everything's fine. It's not fine. Your ass is 3-7. You're not going to a bowl game. Got a lot of work to do. And by the way, there's only 12,000 fans in your last home game. But when I asked him that pointed question, I wanted a unique answer. I wanted to see what his intellect would say. And then when I couched it and said, if you were a king, well, I had to answer the question because the cameras were rolling. He gave a great answer. And it's the first time I've ever heard a coach actually enunciate it, that there should be a fee to my NIL program if you're taking my player that I cited, sorted, and developed. And he's right on. Now, whether or not the NCAA will do it, the conferences, whether the Power Four conferences would agree to it, but something's got to change, because it's happening everywhere. It's happening at San Diego State. I'll grant you, it's happening at Murray State. It's happening at VMI. It's happening at Toledo. You got a really good player that you found and developed in your group of 5, somebody from the Power Four is going to reach in and take them.
Mm-hmm.
It happens everywhere.
But, this cuts so many different ways, because it's not as if the players are under contract. The players are on a 1-year to 1-year deal with their scholarship.
NIL money now.
But even their scholarship is a year-to-year thing. It's not a guarantee. So, you can make a sense, like in the private sector, you have a contract and someone nips you out of the contract, there might be a penalty or a transfer fee. But this is a year-to-year thing. It's like everyone's a free agent when the year expires.
Yeah, but I think it's damaging. I think it's deathly to the smaller Division I schools.
Oh, I agree with you.
Their kids are being cherry-picked.
Yeah.
I'll give you a prime example. Indiana, 10-0, ranked 5th in the country, right? Mm-hmm. Their coach is Kurt Signetti. He just came from a 1AA school, came from James Madison, where he did a great job. He hauled out 5 or 6 kids from where he was at James Madison and took them to IU, and they're all playing. His quarterback is from my alma mater, Ohio U,
mm-hmm.
Nathan Rourke, or Curtis Rourke. Nathan is his brother, plays in the Canadian League. That kid set all the passing records at Ohio U, and Indiana bought him with an NIL price. So OU loses their superstar record-setting quarterback, and they don't get anything for it. And it's happening everywhere. So there's got to be something structurally different as to how the NIL operates, how the transfer portal operates. And what Sean Lewis said today, I think it's unbelievably intelligent about there needs to be compensation. If you're taking my best player, my school needs to be compensated so we can go get other players. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Well, here's another comment. We were talking about the Aztecs, and you said when you were the voice of the Aztecs in the early 90s, they were filling up the stadium. Force Ghost Fabio says gas was $1 when San Diego State was filling stadiums.
Well, we did. I think I did the Aztecs. I've done them multiple times when they were on our station, but it was 90, 91, 92, I believe, was the Marshall Faulk era. And I mean, the stories about where that kid came from and how he developed is just staggering. When they opened training camp his freshman year, he was the 7th running back on the depth chart. And they had a controlled scrimmage on the backfield, the first summer scrimmage of camp. And he got to play 2 series at the end of the day. It was hot. There was no grass. It was a dirt field. It was just ragtag. He ran for 2 touchdowns on sweeps. And I said, wow. Well, he wound up being a starting running back that year, and he had a 386-yard game against the University of Pacific.
I remember that.
With 5 touchdowns. I mean, he just set the NCAA record at that point of 386 yards. But that was a special era, and they had JUCO transfers. They did not have any Division I bounce backs, but Marshall Faulk was a defensive back from Louisiana who had hurt his knee, and nobody wanted to recruit him as a running back. And San Diego State said, you come, we'll put you on the depth chart. You prove yourself. And he did that first scrimmage in the dirt, and he became a superstar. I mean, he gave them 3 unbelievable years, and he was obviously a Heisman Trophy finalist and all-time record-setting running back, et cetera, and first-round pick in the National Football League. But it was electric what they were doing. And Al Lugambill was the coach, and he threw the damn ball down the field. He had NFL players all over the place. I mean, he had wide receiver with the Bengals, Darnay Scott.
Yeah.
They had David Lowry, a pepper pot quarterback who just had no conscience at all. He'd just throw that sucker down the field. They had Falk, and they had tight ends, and They had offensive linemen that wound up in the NFL. It was a great 3 years. And I mean, the greatest college game I ever broadcast, aside from when I did the Sun Devils and Arizona State beat Michigan and Bo in the Rose Bowl, which was amazing.
That's huge.
That's huge. But the most exciting game I ever did was we played BYU, Ty Detmer, 51-51 tie. It was a Thursday night. It was the first game ESPN ever broadcast on a Thursday night. And the whole nation got to see Falk and David Lowry and all those wide receivers. 51-51 shootout with Ty Detmer on TV. How cool was that? And that San Diego State was drawn 48 to 52,000 for home games. And there was an NFL team in town and the Padres in town.
Yeah.
Now we have no NFL team. I don't know where the football fans went, but they're not going to San Diego State and Snapdragon, which just blows my mind.
Well, they're all going to Petco. I mean, that's where they are. But I remember I went to the game when they played Miami.
Yes.
And that stadium was freaking lit. I mean, it was just raging. And I remember the Aztecs lost that game, didn't they?
Missed field goals.
Yeah.
Miami Hurricanes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that was Dan McGuire, Mark's brother there playing quarterback. So, yeah, those were good times. It would be just so wonderful if they can bring something like that back
to the shiny new stadium. Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. But I went back and I did an investigative piece on ticket pricing because the Mountain West kind of feels like the Mid-American Conference where I came from.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of schools, same type of funding and all that. They charge in Miami of Ohio, Western Michigan, and Ohio U. Their tickets range from $20 to $50. Okay. What do they charge at San Diego State?
I know it's a lot. I know it's a ton. Like you have to pay a license fee.
Yeah, $200 per ticket, top ticket.
Yeah,
and that's a ticket. That's not the season. That's a ticket.
Yeah, it's a seat license fee. Yeah,
and you got to pay a seat license fee if you're buying season ticket. The amount of money they're gouging the community here. And then, by the way, since you're driving, you're paying the parking pass, and that's $40.
Yeah, it's insane.
And the hot dogs, it's a money grab. I'm sorry, it's terrible. And they want to say, well, we're like the Mid-American Conference. I'm sorry, you're not like Miami of Ohio or Western Michigan. I've been to those places. I know what those ticket prices are compared to what you're trying to charge here. And by the way, you're not bleeping winning either. So that's why I had 12,775. That's got to be the all-time modern day low for a home game.
Yeah, and then the other part of it was the trouble with the turf. Yeah. I mean, what's your take on that whole story?
Well, it's going to be replaced again, and they're going back to the original. I think it's called Latitude 36, and that'll work. Mm-hmm. But again, you have the stadium. You're trying to generate as much money as you can to pay off the bonds. So therefore, we have the women's soccer, and we're going to have MLS soccer here, and you got all these other events coming in here. You got to have turf. It's going to be able to hold up to it. And this thing got screwed up because they wore out the turf. They couldn't get replacement turf, so they tried something else, and then it became sand-based. It was terrible. But that'll be solved by opening day next year. It'll be clean. It'll be solved. But they're not solving the ticket price problem.
No, they got to solve the winning problem first.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, thank you for the input, Force.
Okay, let's go to Jeff here. Talk NFL. Can the Steelers sustain the season they're having? Didn't expect them to be tops in the black and blue AFC North.
How good a coach as Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. I gauge a coach as to where you start and how much better your team goes as the season goes on. And Mike Tomlin is one of the absolute best. I don't think the brand of football they display in the Three Rivers is very sexy, but they make enough plays and they do play damn defense. They play Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I told John before we started the podcast, I said, if you close your eyes and you think about what's the skyline of Pittsburgh look like? And I told John, close my eyes and it's steel mills and soot and trolleys and all that. That's the way Pittsburgh plays football, steel mill football, kind of grimy and gritty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's who the Steelers are. I don't think they go deep in the playoffs because you're playing great offenses when you get to postseason, and they'll probably move the ball against you. And if you can't move the ball against them, you probably go home after one playoff game. But they got 8 wins. They're 8-2. How is that possible with rental quarterbacks like over the hill Russell Wilson and unproven Justin Fields? And Tomlin's coached these guys to an 8-2 record.
Well, do you believe in Russell Wilson? Because he was crap in Denver, and I figured his career was over, and now suddenly he's like, in the mix.
He's running around making plays again. He's not making them to the same tune that he made him in Denver or prior to that when he was a Minnesota Viking young star.
The Seahawks.
Yeah, and the Seahawks. He's not as athletic now as he used to be, but he's still making enough plays. But you get to postseason, you're playing real people here. You're playing Joe Burrow throwing the ball all over the place, and Justin Herbert scaring the daylights out of you now because he's throwing it and running it. So I don't know if Pittsburgh's got enough guns to stay up with somebody offensively.
Still, I mean, you're right. It's amazing. They're 8-2, I think.
Oh yeah,
which is just incredible.
So the description of Steeler football: grit and grime.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you for the comment, Jeff.
Okay, let's go to do some social medias here, and let's talk. There's another comment on the Steelers-Ravens game, and this is from Jared. He goes, "Never doubt Steeler football, especially against the Ratbirds."
All I could think of at the end of that Steeler game was my late friend, longtime broadcaster, sports writer in Pittsburgh, Myron Cope.
Oh yeah,
and he had this twang when he spoke. You could hardly understand him because it was a Pittsburghese twang. And he used to say at the end of the game, "Oy vey, Steelers win." It's just, and he was cut from a different cloth for sure. He was 1950s guy, journalist, but
Do you ever see that portrait they did of Franco Harris with the sledgehammer?
Sure.
Oh, because he looked like he was like a coal miner guy. It's that whole thing.
So yeah. So Steelers are okay right now. We'll just see if they go deep in the playoffs. But I don't know anybody aside from, I'm married to a Steeler fan. I don't know anybody that thought this would be an 8-2 football team except the Steeler fan in my house.
Yeah, no way. I had no hope. When they had the two quarterbacks and you didn't know what was going to happen, it was going to be a mess.
Yeah, I told John this. My wife's West Virginia, big Steeler fan, big Pirate fan, anything Pittsburgh's a fan of. She'd sit there and watch a Steeler game and she'd be barking. She'd be barking at Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career throwing interceptions. She'd stand up, and the stuff that came out of her mouth when he'd throw picks, she yelled at the TV one time so loud she scared the golden retriever. And the dog,
your wife is so mild and nice and friendly.
Not on Sunday at 1:00.
Did she root for Scott Kaplan when he was kicking at Pitt?
No. Greatest story I can tell. I was dating my wife before we got married. I tried to impress her. I was a talk show host in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay?
that's
I don't know if I was a star, but I was a star.
Yeah.
So I was trying to impress her. So I got her tickets for the Browns-Steelers game in Cleveland. Those were impossible to get, but I got them. And she took her father to the game, not me.
Well, were you there probably as part of your job, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I could cover it too, but
yeah,
she took her father to the game. Absolutely amazing. Okay, enough with me. Next question, social media. Go ahead.
All right, here. Let's talk a little bit about the Chargers. This is from Aaron. He goes, the biggest knocks to this team so far is that they haven't beat winning teams, I think, are largely blown out of proportion. The Steelers and the Chiefs were lucky to play an injured quarterback with an injured offensive line. Herbert hasn't gotten going until he got healthy, and I guarantee the Chargers would be at least 8-1 with wins over the Cards and the Chiefs if they were playing at the same capacity.
Everybody's got injuries, so I think you have to wash that explanation out. That being said, as I talked about last Thursday, the Chargers won their first 6 games against teams that had a combined record of 17-40. They didn't play anybody. Either had a rookie quarterback or somebody's backup journeyman quarterback. Now, these next 5 games, starting with the Cincinnati win, the next 5 games, the composite record of the teams they're playing, which included the Bengals, is 30-19. Now you're playing real people. So you just beat Burrow, although Burrow almost beat you. Mm-hmm. You got an angry Lamar Jackson in Baltimore coming in next. You go to Atlanta, where Kirk Cousins plays lights out in Atlanta. Then you got to go to Arrowhead to play Mahomes. And then you get the 25 touchdown quarterback, Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay. So these 5 games decide the legitimacy of the Chargers. And you got Justin Herbert, but the fact that they almost gave that thing away in the second half because they were charging,
they were.
That scares the daylights out of me because I still don't know how complete a team they are defensively. I have no doubt that a healthy Herbert throwing and running with all the other combo stuff, he's made those receivers better and better. That's a dangerous offensive team, but I don't know about their defense right now. And the fact that you allowed Cincinnati to score on all those possessions in the second half and almost lost that game, holy mackerel.
Well, I saw some of those runs that he had. He was just galloping for 20 yards at a time.
He's 6'6". He's a long strider.
Yeah, and I imagine the ankle, everything's healed, but just on the running game alone, who do you like better, Herbert or Josh Allen?
Josh Allen's much more physical. I worry about Herbert. Herbert did a spun around in the pocket and was trying to break containment. I thought it was going to be a head-on collision. It was going to knock him out of the game. I thought he was going to get knocked into next year. And luckily, the Bengals player didn't bury him. The Bengals player knew he was going down, and he could have popped him face to face and probably would have knocked him out. And I was really worried that he got lit. And luckily, the Bengal player pulled off because he knew Herbert was going down. He was not going to bury him. But no, Josh Allen is so much bigger and much more physical. Herbert's faster, no doubt about that.
But that run that Josh Allen made at the end of that game on Sunday was fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you think about Ladd McConkey? He was pretty good.
He's always been pretty good. He's a great route runner. Tell you what, he's tough as nails.
Mm-hmm.
He gets banged around a lot, but he's good. Quentin Johnston is starting to look like the player that they thought he could be. I mean, he's played much better route running, dependability, catching passes, and even going into traffic and getting some. He looks so different now than he did a year ago. He's just a young pup out of TCU a year ago. So I like the package of school people around him. I still got reservations about their defense. We'll see. But they checked off one box. They beat a good quarterback in Burrows, but they almost gave that game back. That still scares me. And Baltimore comes in. Baltimore's really going to be angry after losing in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, Quentin Johnston was giving Ladd McConkey all the love for that big catch near the end of the game. So it's nice seeing the teammates supporting each other.
Pretty good offense. On we go. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, let's talk a little Clippers here. And this is with Chuck. He says, it's a shame that Steve Ballmer bought a cursed organization. But why stop there? Why not also buy the Angels? Maybe the two curses will negate themselves.
Well, I was told that there has been conversation back when Artie Moreno actually put the Angels up for sale. There was conversation, would Ballmer want to be an investor? Would Ballmer want to take over control? Ballmer equals brilliance. I mean, corporate-wise, who he ran Microsoft?
Yeah, he was the CEO or the president under Bill Gates.
He is unbelievably gifted intellectually from a business standpoint. Yeah, so, I don't know whether or not he wants to venture farther into ownership and do other things. But he did write the check to build the Intuit Dome, the brand new arena there. And I think he's going to be a player in free agency a year from now. And, he's got to rebuild it. They've just tried twice with star players and have had injuries have wiped him out. The first time, Blake Griffin. Now this time, Kawhi Leonard. And so there'll be another round of free agency. And I think he'll be back in the marketplace, try to lure people to the second biggest market in the country, LA.
See, it just goes to show you say great organizations win championships, but you could still have a great owner who's trying like hell to build a great organization
and have bad luck
and things don't work. And there's just, it's amazing that there are some teams that have been able to sustain it for so long.
And there are other teams that have it and screw it all up. You didn't mention Jeannie Buss, did you? Lakers?
Maybe the first family of football. You talking about them
too? That too. Okay, thanks for joining us.
Okay, let's go here. Let's talk about the MLB Rookie of the Year, which, by the way, they're going to announce that in a few hours. And this is from Joel, and he says, Skeens is going to win it. Merrill would win it pretty much any other season, but Skeens was arguably the best pitcher in baseball since he came up in May, and his numbers are historically good. Also, whether right or wrong, they don't usually take team success into consideration with Rookie of the Year. That's more of an MVP criteria.
Not a bad argument. I concur with you. But Jackson Merrill played such an integral role, and his statistics across the board in all those games he played, and he played all the games. He didn't pitch once a week. I think Jackson Merrill rates above Churio, and Churio had a good back half of the season in Milwaukee, but his was kind of a half campaign. I mean, Jackson Merrill did it right from the get-go, and he did it with his glove, he did it with his bat, he did it with speed on the bases and grit. What's the Peanuts character? Pigpen? So he's got dirt on him. That's what I see. I see Jackson Merrill, and I think of Pigpen all the time.
Pigpen.
Yeah.
I remember him. Yeah. You always had a cloud of dust around him. But, Jackson Merrill won the Silver Sluggers. He was the best hitting center fielder in the National League. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, what a rookie year.
There's no doubt Skeens was just physically dominant, but he pitched once a week. And by the way, where did his team finish? So I think Merrill had a bigger impact on Padres' success than Skeens had on Pirates' success. And Churio had a nice season, but so did Willie Adames and a whole bunch of other people. And Churio only did it for about the back half of the schedule. So I'm not biased. I'm just saying I like Pigpen more than I like anybody else.
Well, we're going to find out at 3:00 Pacific time today.
Let's do one more here.
One more. Let's talk a little Padres Dodgers, and this rivalry is always lit. HCF says, hey, nice try, Padre. Nice effort, but no cigar. You'll be and continue to be second fiddle to the Dodgers. The rich are getting richer. Get used to it. Dodgers rule. Dodgers will be the 3 samurai Dodgers, will rule for now and the future. So
I am fascinated with the rumor that's out there that they are not only talking about Sasaki, and many people have the opinion they have the inside track on, but they're talking to Snell. Now, that'd be Snell at the Dodger price, which is 3 years. I was told over 100, 105, or maybe it was, I can't recall the exact figure. I think it's almost 40 million per year over 3 years. No deferred money. But they're not going 5 and they're not going 7. And Boris says, I'm not going to do an Ohtani deferred contract. But the Red Sox are in on him. The Mets are going to be in on him too, on Blake Snell. So be interested. But geez, if the Dodgers got Sasaki and Snell, wow. We'll see.
Yeah, and then you still have Yamamoto and Ohtani. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Now, Ohtani's going to pitch next year, but maybe not till halfway through the year.
Yeah, because he's not allowed to do anything in terms of baseball preparation for 10 to 12 weeks post-labrum surgery.
Okay.
And that means he can't do any running. He can't do any of this.
Okay.
All he's doing is minor range of motion for 4 weeks. Then he does some type of weight work for 4 weeks for the range of motion strengthening here. Then he can do cardio. But he can't do treadmill. He can't be doing sprints. And I was told he's not going to do any baseball related touch a baseball thing till sometime 12 weeks after surgery, which is going to push him to February 1st. So
yes, there's no way he's going to be the starting rotation to begin the year.
Now he will be able to do swinging stuff.
Okay.
With bats sometime around the 1st of February.
Unbelievable. But I will say this, though, here about HCF. This is typical of our Dodger fan friends because, yeah, they won the championship and they're fired up and it was a big rivalry with the Dodgers. But, man, they just think San Diego, they just love making fun of Padre fans. Your little brother, little sister, you guys are never going to amount to much. We're going to get Crochet. We're going to get Sasaki. We're going to get Snell. We're going to have it all.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about Crochet and the whole myriad of hot names.
Mm-hmm.
Crochet's out there, and everybody's offering packages of 3-for-1 or 4-for-1. The White Sox. Now, that also includes the Yankees, and that also includes the Mets, and that also includes the Red Sox, and the Padres are in on that conversation. And the Dodgers, who have a plethora of people in the farm system in Oklahoma City, they could be in the conversation. So somehow, some way, for Dodger fans, you're going to wind up with some mixed bag. You're going to wind up with Sasaki and Snell, or maybe Sasaki and Crochet. It's going to be fascinating to see. So winter baseball meetings, 1st of December. Don't miss our podcast. There'll be a lot there to cover.
AJ Preller sleeping this time of the year?
Not much.
Not much. He's up 24/7.
All the time. That's who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed